You know, they like to say everything's bigger in Texas, right? That's a lie, because the playoff possibilities for the Bengals and the Cowboys are actually very small as they meet in this Monday night matchup. They'll get smaller if they don't win. They both have to win to keep hope alive. Joe Burrow has done everything for Cincinnati, but it hasn't translated into wins. Can he get it right in Dallas? We're going to break it all down for you on the pregame power-up. Let's go! Well, through 12 games, the Cowboys are 5-7 this season. Why do I mention the number 12? Because they've won at least 12 each of the last 3 seasons. They finally picked up their first home win here at Jerry World against the Giants on Thanksgiving and are hoping that has exorcised the demons that have plagued them on their own home turf, which also includes, you know, the sun interfering with players trying to catch touchdowns. It'll all make sense. Welcome into another edition of the Pregame Power-Up on DraftKings Network. Glad you are here with us being Trey, Wingo, Claudia, Bellafotto. Emerson Lazio will join us from Jerry World. Also, Marshall Newhouse will be down. We'll talk about everything in the game tonight, how the Chiefs did it again. What else can Josh Allen do to try and keep the Bills on the right side of the score? And has Kirk Cousins hit the wall so hard he's bounced 10 yards past it? We'll get into all of that, but first the numbers tonight, Claudia, for the Monday night game.
Yeah, not a ton of movement. Of course, the Cowboys home, but the Bengals are still a favorite, and nothing near that key number of 7. Not a ton of movement there, although they are seeing money. The action I want to talk about, though, is on the over. This Bengals squad, their defense is their glaring weakness. So they're allowing a lot of points, but they're also putting up a ton of points. So they're hitting the over at the 2nd highest rate. Dallas hitting the over at the 5th highest rate. And all of a sudden, with Cooper Rush, they've put up 61 points over the last 2 games. And yes, you might say, well, it was the Commanders and Giants, but the Bengals have been beat down on defense. So the total is sort of the headline here for this game. Cowboys dealing with some injuries, which we'll get to later. But yeah, the Bengals are road favorite in this one.
Very unusual, especially when you look at how well the Cowboys have played the last few seasons at home. Not so much this season.
Not this season.
We'll get into that a little bit later, but let's talk about those Cincinnati Bengals. They just can't get themselves straight. They suffered their 8th loss of the season last week, where they put up 38 points and lost 44-38 at the hand of the Pittsburgh Steelers, another game where the offense put up at least 30 and lost. The Bengals have 4 losses in which they'd scored 30 or more points in 2024. They're tied for the most of any team in NFL history with the 2002 Chiefs, who finished 8-8, but it gets even weirder. The Bengals are averaging over 27 points per game in their losses this season. That is the 3rd highest all-time among teams with at least 4 defeats. Only the 2018 Chiefs and the 1983 Raiders average more, and here's where it gets weird. The Chiefs that year finished 12-4, and Mahomes was the MVP, and the Raiders actually won the Super Bowl that year, and the Bengals can't find a way to win a game. It's nuts. And it's not on Joe Burrow, trust me. Entering the week, he led the NFL in passing yards and passing touchdowns, while his defense ranked 31st in points allowed. Burrow is the 3rd quarterback in the last 50 seasons to lead the NFL in passing touchdowns on a team with a losing record. The others were Drew Brees in 2012 and Joe Montana in 1982. Both of those teams' defense ranked in the bottom 10 of the league, so you're seeing why this happens with what we're getting from Cincinnati. But let's take it one step further here with Joe Burrow. Joe has 30 passing touchdowns and 5 interceptions through 12 games. That's the 7th quarterback with 30-plus TDs and 5 or fewer. And take a look at the other guys' records. No one has less than 9 wins. Burrow's Bengals have 4, which, by the way, is just another reason why wins and losses are not a quarterback stat ad infinitum. I literally will die on this hill. I will refuse to give that up. It is the truth. Teams win games, teams win championships, teams lose games. And teams cover games really well, and our team is ready to cover the Monday night game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Cincinnati Bengals. And so for that, let's head out to the stadium where we find one Emerson Lazio. Emerson, I notice you're wearing sunglasses. Are you on the right side so the sun will not bother you the way it has some of the players in this matchup over the years in this stadium?
Trey, it is exactly why I'm wearing sunglasses
yes!
right now. Abso-freaking-lutely, buddy. Listen, you touched on some of the numbers already, and among all of the preseason Super Bowl contenders, I think the Bengals may be the most disappointing out of that bunch. It all started with Joe Burrow and the frosted tips, but just the tips, and then came on the field here, guys. On the field, they've been scoring points. That is important, but they've been allowing their opponents to score more points, which is not very good if you want to win games. In this 3-game losing streak here, they've been allowing close to 38 points a game and 450 yards a game. All right, but good guy Joe Burrow, right? He's not blaming the defense. However, he is feeling this little thing called pressure.
Yeah, I feel it. I feel it. You know, I feel the pressure on me to be great. You know, that's part of playing quarterback in the NFL. You know, I have to play to the absolute peak of my ability every week for us to go and win. And you know, some games I've done that, some games I haven't. And so, you know, I'm just trying to be as consistent as I can from the team, try to take care of the ball better, and go from there.
We had opportunities to close the game out. And you could pull clips up from every game that we lost by 3 points or 6 or 7 points, and it came down to the final 3 minutes on one play on the offensive side. You know, I ain't gonna never down our defense because the defense gonna be the defense always, and that's not my job to worry about what they got going on. My job is to worry about scoring touchdowns and blocking for Chase Brown. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, Jamar. Jamar and Joe Burrow obviously been making magic together since college. This season, they combined for 79 completions, almost 1,200 yards, 13 touchdowns. The best part, though, guys, is the fact that tonight they will get to see themselves reincarnated as characters from The Simpsons. That's right. This game is getting the Simpsons treatment over on Disney+. So coming up, I'm going to mingle a little bit with the people, Cowboys fans, and talk to them about the alarming similarities between America's team and also Springfield's first family. All right, so we got to go because we're in a Walmart parking lot, and now the tow trucks are here, and there is a good chance they are targeting us right now. So, toodly-doo, neighborino.
Excellent, Smithers. Excellent. We look forward to hearing that report a little bit later. Emerson Latzia, please don't get towed. That would be very, very bad. Okay, so as we continue here, look at this Cincy defense entering this week. 31st in scoring, 27th in total yards and passing yards allowed, 26th in sacks allowed. They're basically letting it, which has been so weird because they've been so good under Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator, the last few seasons. But, Claudia, it is just all falling apart here.
Well, you know what's even weirder, Trey? The Dallas Cowboys were one of the best teams at home last season, and now they can't seem to win. They did, though, break that streak. They finally got a win against the Giants back on Thanksgiving. But we're about to show you some stats that don't bode very well to Jerry's world. This season at home, they have a record of just 1-5, that one win for them. They're averaging just 16 and allowing a league worst 34.5 points per game at home. Point differential, -111. Also the worst in the NFL, and a turnover differential of -9. However, they are coming off that win on Thanksgiving. They're coming off of 2 wins, so division wins at that with the Commanders and Giants. They're averaging over 30 points a game. The defense has improved as well, allowing just 2 touchdown passes and forcing 4 interceptions over the last 2 weeks. So could this be a turning point? Well, Cooper Rush certainly being a part of this success as of late. 3 touchdown passes, no picks in back-to-back games. The Cowboys scored just 16 total points in his first 2 starts after taking over for Dak Prescott, and now 61 over the last 2. Quite the jump. Rush is 7-3 against the spread in 10 career starts, and when he's listed as an underdog of 7 or less, like he is tonight, he's 5-0 against the spread. For more on tonight's action, let's bring in Stormy Buonantony live from the DraftKings floor in Las Vegas. Stormy, the Bengals haven't been winning, but they have been putting points up on the board, one of the highest rates in the NFL, hitting that over at the second highest rate. How are people approaching this total tonight?
Yeah, I try to be polite, so I think that the Bengals have been winning challenged. But you're right, they have not been scoring challenged at all. They're a top 5 offense in terms of points per game. Joe Burrow leads the NFL with 30 passing touchdowns this season. But it's crazy to think about these last couple of games on this 3-game losing streak. 2 of those games they lost, they scored 34 points. They scored 38 points. And why is that? Because the defense is real bad. They're tied for the second worst in terms of points allowed per game. Tied for second with, guess who? The Dallas Cowboys. So with that in mind, I feel like I'm always coming on with you talking about how, public bettors love the over, sharps are on the under. This is a game where it is a communal over. 75% of the handle, 76% of bets, all coming in on the over, now 50.5, and this has ticked up a little bit. Kind of surprised that it hasn't gone up even more because these are over teams and they have been all year. The Bengals 9-3 to the over. Dallas, who you just mentioned, 8-4 to the over. And Monday nights have been a heavy overplay this season, and it's been successful. 12-4 to the over on Monday night this year. We'll see if they can cash it again tonight.
Stormy, I know you and I, neither of us ever do a blind bet. But if I'm looking at these two defenses, and I look now, somehow Cooper Rush putting points up on this board with this Dallas offense, I'm just not going under. I just can't do it. Let's talk about some player props, as we both have said several times. Cincinnati putting points up on the board. Joe Burrow having a career year. He gets T. Higgins back. He was out for a few games. He's been back for 2 straight, which opens up the game immensely for both him and Jamar Chase and the guys out of the backfield as well. How are people approaching the prop market?
Yeah, so let's start at the heart of it with Joe Burrow, who you mentioned. 3 straight games now where he's had 3+ passing touchdowns and 300+ passing yards. So you are paying a Joe Burrow tax now if you want to get invested in his props. His passing yards bet up from 271.5 to 280.5 passing yards, and his passing touchdowns prop at over or under 1.5 touchdowns. The over is juiced to -235. So if you wanted to win $100 betting Joe Burrow over 1.5 touchdowns, you'd have to lay $230 out there in order to do so. And Jamar Chase, who you mentioned, his favorite target, he's getting bet over in the receiving yards, over 6.5 receptions tonight. He's the most bet player for a first touchdown, anytime touchdown, and rightfully so. He's got 6 scores in the last 3 games and at least 1 in 7 of his last 8. But T. Higgins, he's got 90% of the bets toward his over. Even Andre Yoshivas, all over money. Chase Brown, the rushing yards prop are kind of so-so, but receiving, it's over. So expecting high volume in the passing game and well distributed among all of those pass catchers.
Yeah, and high total, of course, so game script bodes well to that passing game. Let's go to the other side with this Dallas Cowboys roster. They're getting Jake Ferguson back, a huge part of that passing game. They found a lot of success with Rico Dowdle out of the backfield. They gave up on the Zeke Elliott, I guess we can call it experiment with him coming back there. How are people playing these Cowboys props?
Well, Rico Dowdle, despite him having 86+ rushing yards now in back-to-back games, his rushing yards prop actually getting bet down a little bit to 65.5. Ferguson, who you mentioned coming back from the concussion, his prop in the receiving market bet up from 37.5 to 39.5, and that is juiced around -130 toward the over. So the expectation is he'll even get over that higher number. CeeDee Lamb, potentially a buy low spot on CeeDee Lamb, as his prop has come down from 70.5 yards to 67.5. If you think that this can be a day where he and Cooper Rush can have a nice connection. Something I did find interesting, though, one of the most bet props in this game today is a Dallas Cowboy on the over. It's their kicker, Brandon Aubrey, over 1.5, made field goals today, and he has attempted at least 2 in 5 straight games, made 2 in 4 of those 5.
I love to see some love for the kickers. You really do love to see that.
Yes, we need it. We need it sometimes. Kickers are people too, Claudia.
They are. They deserve the love. Let's talk about this spread a bit. Like I said, not a ton of movement with the Bengals, the road favorite. And I know they are seeing money, but what are the exact numbers looking like on that action?
Yeah, it's really interesting with this one because on the early line, the Bengals were 6.5 point favorites, came down to 5.5 when it reopened, and now today we're seeing 4.5, and all of the percentages are showing money coming in on the Cincinnati Bengals, yet that move has gone toward the Cowboys. So while I talked about everybody being in on the over, we've got a pros versus Joes situation here on the spread. The public loves Cincinnati, but it appears that the sharps are on the dog in the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, Stormy Montoni out there in Vegas. We appreciate you as always.
Thanks, Claudia.
Yeah, the Cowboys are just ridiculous, as you said. 1-5 at home this year. They were 16-1 home last year.
Yeah.
That was best in the NFL. All right, Jamar and CeeDee are 2 of the most targeted receivers in the NFL this season, but the production hasn't been there for the Cowboys star wideout. Why it's bettors beware for CeeDee tonight. We'll get to that as we continue Pregame PowerUp, all over the Monday Night Matchup.
We've given you next gen stats. Now it's time for next gen cat.
I think the thing we always do is let's find the Emmy. Oh, there it is.
Oh, I just
They
thought
always make it very
Claudia,
easy for us to
an
find the
ornament.
Emmy.
That was nice.
I just think that's.
There was a note to me too. That was sweet. All right, kitty cat, where are we going? First touchdown is
Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase.
There you go.
Pretty smart cat.
Well,
Can't disagree with that.
that's a football feline. There's no question about it. We didn't need a cat to tell us how good Jamar Chase is, though. Chase leads the NFL in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns this season. He also leads the league with 4 games of multiple receiving touchdowns. Chad Johnson, or Chad Ochocinco, depending on what day of the week it is, was the only Bengals player to lead the league in receiving yards when he did so way back in 2006. Chase has already matched his best season for touchdowns. He had 13 back in his rookie season when he won the Offensive Rookie of the Year. The Bengals' single-season record for receiving touchdowns was set by Carl Pickens, who had 17 back in 1995. Burrow to Chase, a combo that Dallas will have its hands full tonight with. Right, Claudia?
That's right, Trey. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, the bread and butter of this offense. But let's take a next-gen look at what makes this offense flow so well. This season, it's Joe Burrow and his intermediate throws. He's just one of only 4 qualified quarterbacks who has not thrown a pick on intermediate throws this season. That's contributing to a passer rating that ranks second highest among such quarterbacks. Now, why is that important for tonight? Well, the Cowboys have allowed the 3rd highest completion percentage and the 2nd most yards per attempt on intermediate passes this season. Okay, deep ball, Joe Burrow, you probably think Jamar Chase, right? And, well, you'd be right, because look at these numbers. Season long, Burrow has thrown a league-leading 11 touchdowns to Chase on downfield passes. That is 5 more than the next closest quarterback wide receiver duo. But if we're focusing on the intermediate routes, his guy is actually going to be on the other side with T. Higgins. And when healthy over the last 2 games, he led the team in targets, catches, and yards. And this season, season, he leads the squad in targets and catches on those intermediate routes in 7 games that he's been on the field. So yes, a Jamar Chase game always, and tonight, a great matchup for T. Higgins.
Claudia, that's true. For Dallas, their star wideout has not looked like himself of late. In their last game against the Giants, Lamb tweaked the AC joint sprain in his right shoulder, with approximately 8 minutes left in the third quarter. Tried to play through their injury, but departed the game after just a few plays. In that game, he had a season-low 2 receptions, his fewest in a game since Week 1 of 2022. It snapped an NFL record 44-game streak with at least 4 receptions for CeeDee Lamb. So let's go next-gen stats on Lamb's recent struggles. Since Cooper Rush took over as a starter at quarterback for Dak in Week 10, Lamb has averaged just 5.9 air yards per target, the 7th lowest among receivers with at least 15 targets over that time frame. Overall, Lamb has averaged a career-low 8 yards per target this season, nearly 2 yards fewer than last season when he averaged 9.7. Between the shoulder and a backup quarterback, Lamb's numbers haven't been what he's used to, but he says at least the shoulder won't be bothering him tonight.
Still have the shoulder injury, which I've been dealing with for about 4 or 5 weeks now. It comes with the territory, man. It's about being a baller, and it's about going out there and sacrificing and putting yourself out there for your guys, and that's what I'm doing. And as far as Monday goes, I'll be fine by then.
Well, the Cowboys would need you to be fine tonight. Despite all of this, Lamb is still tied with Chase for 79 receptions on the season. Both of these guys should jump into the top 3 tonight, but check out the top of this list. That is the Raiders rookie tight end out of Georgia, Brock Bowers, pacing the entire NFL with 87 receptions. And we should point out, that is not insignificant because those 87 receptions, that is a new single-season rookie tight end reception record. He still has 4 games to play.
And
he still has 4 games to play. He's going to put that thing so far away, nobody's going to touch that record for a long, long time.
And my thing is, look at who's been throwing him the ball, and
Aiden
nobody
O'Connell,
else is around
Minshew,
him.
Desmond Ritter.
So it's so easy for the defenses to scheme on them, and he's still getting open. So I'm sorry, there's no excuse for any other receiver when you have the Joe Burrows and the Josh Allens and the Mahomes of the world. Brock Bowers is doing it.
He's absolutely phenomenal, and that leads us to the betting splits for tonight.
Yes, how are people betting this one? I will tell you, Trey.
Please do.
The money coming in on the Bengals to cover, almost 80% of the handle, over 72% of the bets, the over seeing that money. As far as a prop goes, 82% of the bets on Rush, over 241.5 passing yards, and I'm sure game script has something to do with that. For more on liability, here's our anonymous DraftKings, there it is, informant, Captain Book.
Just the company we work for.
What's going on, man? Just checking in. Great show so far, Trey. Claudia? All right. Quick look, the book says y'all might have bet big on Burrow. Big cheese on Cincinnati's main squeeze. I like that blonde hair, man. That's real cool. So we got all this love on the line for the Bengals. Not so much for them Cowboys, but hey, man, sometimes you gotta move back to move forward. Dallas had their run, but that's over now. Oh, we've been seeing a little bit more Joe Willie late than old Joe Chili. He's been huffing and puffing since that Super Bowl sprint. And here we are, man. Everybody's hammering the total to go over. Could have got a better number on Sunday, but hey, if that 50 out there now was on a grill, you'd be hearing them holler all the way from Kilgore. What a burger, baby. So when the Monday night anthem rolls in, you grab your phone lit up, ready to fire on that spread. I ain't saying you got to bet on Dallas, but it'd be a lot cooler if you did.
I'm sorry, I don't know any other program that has something that creative. He could just tell us, yeah, you know, we need this, we need that. No, Matthew McConaughey.
Well, if that's Matthew McConaughey, let me tell you something.
You're George Clooney.
That sounded like somebody on Ether. Okay, it didn't.
I thought it was actually really good.
That
Good
was
job,
not
Captain
Matthew
Buck.
McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey, interestingly enough, is not a Cowboy fan. He used to go dressed up as the old Washington Redskins just to tick off his buddies who were all Cowboys fans.
Well, he was a hardcore Longhorns fan.
Oh, that is true.
He was sitting there next to the coaches this weekend.
All right.
Buddy, what are you doing?
No, that's what he is.
Yeah,
that's who he is. Let's try and salvage this program now and get us back to football. And for that, let's bring in our guy, longtime NFL offensive lineman, 11 years in the league, Marshall Newhouse, who also doesn't think that was a very good Matthew McConaughey. Let's talk first about Cincinnati. You know, for years, Marshall, Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator for the Bengals, had the code. They were the only team that could stop Patrick Mahomes. They beat him all the time in the regular season, beat him in the AFC Championship game at Arrowhead. And now that defense has completely fallen apart. What happened?
Yeah, I think it's an assortment of things, but I think it's ultimately just the Bengals being the Bengals. Lou Anarumo's defense, in 21 and 22 were on an upward trajectory. They were about middle of the pack, but they were very impactful. Like you said, they had some secret sauce against the best teams in the league that allowed them to make these deep playoff runs with Joe Burrow coming to his own. They were dangerous. I mean, they were the team that were like, all right, this is kryptonite to both the Bills and the Chiefs. But now they just don't have anything even close to resembling that because they lose guys like Jesse Bates. They can't keep a core together. And then the guys they got in free agency are that much more older in Trey Hendrickson. So they can't generate a pass rush outside of him. They don't have stock corners who can cover your best guy. And that leads to the tune of almost dead last defense in points per game and a passing defense and a defense that can't keep up with, on the other side, an all-world, all-NFL offense and quarterback.
I was going to say, just imagine they could do all of those things that you mentioned because the offense certainly pulling their weight, Joe Burrow having a career year. What does that really do to a locker room when you have that sort of lopsided production and success, Marshall?
Well, yeah, there's certain guys who, the pettiness starts to come out and they start looking at out the side of their head a little bit. But if you play long enough, there are times when whatever side of the ball that you're on, you just haven't carried your weight. This is why it is the ultimate team game. And that seems like such a Boy Scout answer, but there are times when the Bengals offense needs the defense to step up, and there are times when the defense is like, hey, we got you the ball back. We need you to go score. That's just how this works. Now, when it's an entire season, yeah, it weighs on things. You can see Jamar Chase getting frustrated. Joe Burrow, I know, is frustrated despite, buying Batmobiles and stuff. But we know that it's the team game, and we know that these things are cyclical. Usually more cyclical than just being flat dead last in a lot of categories this year, but we know things come back. And so you don't want to start to, split and divide a locker room over lack of performance unless guys are just, not doing what they're supposed to do over and over again. Then you've got a people problem. And so there's a lot of ways they can go about it, but you don't want a team and a locker room splintered over performance because we know that it swings back and forth.
Yeah, winning, I always say, is the ultimate deodorant. As long as you're winning, everything's fine. But once you start winning, everything bothers the hell out of you. And it seems like that's where we're getting with the Bengals and that offense versus that defense right now. Speaking of the Cowboys, that defense has been improving. You get Micah Parsons back, crazy. It's like, you play better when you have one of the best players on that side of the ball for you. And it looks like they might get Deron Bland and Teron Diggs on the field for the same time together. But the offense has also sort of found a little bit of a rhythm. What are you seeing from the Cowboys in their last 2 wins?
I mean, yeah, they're not playing to this level that is shocking to anyone as far as their level, but they're just not shooting themselves in the foot, which is a crazy thing to say. But sometimes that's all it takes to get back on the right track. Their turnover margin in the last few games has been positive. I think they're +3 or +4 in the turnover margin. So they're not putting themselves behind the 8 ball. They've established a little bit of a running game with Rico Dowdle. Where has he been all season? And yeah, the defense is coming alive. And Micah Parsons is still who he is. Mike Zimmer is finding new ways to get him open and on pressures, moving around the defensive front. And so, yeah, they can still put pressure on teams, absolutely. And so what that does is it raises the floor of your team. Now, are they at a level that can compete and make a run? Maybe not with Cooper Rush, but they're not playing basement dweller, DEFCON 3 football anymore. And that's saying a lot for where they were and where they are trying to go.
You mentioned Rico Dowdle, and he's been playing better than Zeke Elliott, but the team as a whole still struggles to run the ball, as does Cincinnati. Cincinnati 28th in rush yards, Dallas 31st. Do you expect that to change in any way tonight with the softer defenses, or should they both just lean on the passing games that are finding more success, Marshall?
I mean, you don't just turn to a new team, even against another bad matchup. But yeah, Cincinnati struggled, with injuries. Losing Zach Moss early really hurt them. The inconsistency with their O-line as far as availability and performance. You're seeing Orlando Brown trying to work his way back, but he doesn't look like the same guy that we were used to seeing. And then the Cowboys, ultimately, they just stood pat in the offseason, and they are paying for the sins of not going and getting someone who wasn't Zeke Elliott to really be a difference maker in the backfield. And so these are both teams that are struggling, both teams that I think can still run the ball, but only against other teams like them. And so you'll see them both kind of put the ball on the ground a little bit. But Joe Burrow, if he has anything to say about it, he's going to want to throw around on this Cowboys pass defense for sure.
Yeah, remember Jerry said he was all in this offseason on doing nothing. They could have had Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry wanted to go play for the Cowboys. All right, you mentioned Joe Burrow. Okay, look, statistically he's having one of his best seasons, but obviously the wins haven't been there. And this is what Richard Sherman had to say about Joe Burrow on the latest Thursday night Amazon telecast. Take a listen.
Statistically, look, Joe Burrow should be the MVP. His team has just let him down. He's got 30 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. You can say what you want. You can boo what you want. The numbers are the numbers. I don't give a dang what y'all say.
Yeah, I mean, look, he is putting up MVP-type numbers, but we all know that award tends to go to a team that actually is doing well. The bettors currently see him as 11th in the odds at 100 to 1. Could you make a case, though, that Joe Burrow is the MVP?
In the land that Richard Sherman lives, I don't know if it's cuckoo, la la land, yes. In reality, no. But I get what he's saying. The stats, the yards, the touchdowns, the interceptions, they're all there. But ultimately, this is an ultimate team game, as I mentioned before. But if you're the MVP, that means that you have elevated your team to a level that they are competitive. And unfortunately, that's just not Joe Burrow's fault. He can't get all the credit for wins and he can't get all the blame for losses, but they're right now a 4-18. How good your numbers are, if your 33 touchdowns or whatever it is and 5 interceptions don't lift you beyond the 4-8 right now, you can't be considered for MVP. That's just, we would have to redefine what we think of this award if we started to do that, and I just don't see them ever doing that.
It's also a little difficult when another quarterback's throwing and running for 6 total touchdowns, right, Marshall?
We'll get to Josh Allen a little bit later.
We will get to
good.
that. In the Simpsons world, though, lots of money coming in on the Bengals tonight. They are the favorite on the road. What is your pick for tonight, Marshall?
I have the Bengals as well. If they can keep an eye on Micah Parsons tonight, there's going to be a lot of open receivers, and we'll see if Cooper Rush can keep up with Joe Burrow. So give me the Bengals.
All right, Marshall Newhouse, we appreciate you. We'll talk to you in a bit about that one and only Josh Allen. On the night in the NFL, we will be doing a Simpsons simulcast. The similarities between the Jerry Jones and Mr. Burns are not lost on us. It isn't lost on Emerson Latzia either. Of course it's not. Who will put up his own Springfield spin on this game tonight when we come back.
through how you decided you wanted to buy a Batmobile?
I don't know what you're talking about. That's the answer you get.
It's his money. Let him do what he wants with it. It was revealed on the in-season version of Hard Knocks that Joe Burrow purchased the Batmobile, apparently one of 10 in existence from Christopher Nolan's Caped Crusader trilogy. The car cost $3 million, and it's fully functional. However, not street legal. And I guess when you have that much money, you just buy silly things.
Well, I mean, if you can afford the Batmobile, do you care whether or not it's street legal? Does that bother you if it's street legal? No.
I know.
You're gonna do whatever you want with it.
cares.
And oh, by the way, Joe, what is this coy act? You're on camera saying
mic'd up.
Mic'd up. You know it's there. So what is this? Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Just say you like Batman. Like, it's not that hard, right?
It's endearing, I guess.
It is.
Right?
But that's the answer we get, according to Joe Burrow. Okay. So why are we making cartoon references and talking about Batman? Well, because this game is being not flexed out of Monday Night Football because there is a simulcast of this game because they did the artwork and voiceovers and all the other things that have been done for the alternate Simpsons broadcast. So tonight you get Homer's Cowboys versus Bart's Bengals, and you'll like it. And one guy who's happy to see this game happen, so he didn't have to rebook travel, is standing by out in Dallas to put his own Simpson spin on tonight's game. I cannot wait for this from Emerson Latzia.
Nothing beats a stroll in Cowboys country. Hi, I'm Emerson Latzia. You may remember me from such football features as Winning, It's Not for Losers, and Antonio Brown, a comeback story. But today, I'm here to talk about Dallas, not the television show from the 70s, but the Dallas Cowboys.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
A football team with a great history, and unfortunately, history is all they have. The team's last trip to the NFC title game was 3 decades ago. They have just 4 playoff wins in the 21st century. These days, the Cowboys are more of a meme than a team.
I came from there, we lost, y'all ain't nobody else, man. Put my damn championship on the tape.
Fans are left disappointed once again.
Some would even say it's like getting hit in the groin with a football. The lack of postseason success, however, has not kept them boys out of the spotlight. For some reason, they find themselves in another primetime game. And tonight, over on Disney Plus, it's getting the Simpsons treatment. And the similarities between Springfield's first family and America's team are quite alarming. Jerry Jones bought the Cowboys in 1989, the same year the Simpsons debuted. Jones made his fortune in oil, a top source of energy, and bears a striking resemblance to the filthy rich nuclear power plant owning villain, Mr. Burns. Now, even the most avid Simpsons snobs will tell you the show has not been the same since its golden era of the 90s. Time now for my favorite part of the show. What's that say? Talk to Cowboys fans about the Simpsons? Oh, God, this is always death. All right, who would you rather have own the Cowboys, Jerry Jones or Mr. Burns?
Oh, Mr. Burns.
Would you be interested in Mr. Burns taking over the Cowboys?
Isn't he already?
They're both old, they're both crusty, and they should both be out of there anyway.
Who would you say Mike McCarthy is for a Simpsons character?
Krusty the Clown.
The clown.
The clown? Krusty the Clown?
Yeah. Clown.
The clown.
Oh my God, it's a clean sweep. Everyone's saying he's Krusty the Clown.
Yeah.
Anyone in your organization who would be Krusty the Clown?
The whole defense.
Who's had a better run since the late 90s, the Simpsons or the Cowboys?
Oh, definitely the Simpsons.
Simpsons, they're more predictable.
Hell, they're pretty good at predicting things. I think they predicted the Cowboys being pretty good this year, and that didn't quite work out. Would you say neither the Simpsons nor the Cowboys have been good since the late 90s?
I think the Simpsons still got them beat.
Simpsons are up here and the Cowboys are here.
Shut up!
Oh, no! So, guys, after hanging with fans, I can confirm that in Cowboys country, a noble spirit embiggens the smallest man. Oh, my groin!
I don't get
We
it.
knew that was coming. But You want to tell people?
I've never seen The Simpsons. I have no idea.
How is that
who's Mr.
possible?
Burns?
The show has been on like the entire time you've been alive.
I don't watch TV. I never have no.
It's a good thing you're in television then. Really?
This is different.
Solid.
This is different.
Is it? Is it?
Yes.
I don't feel like it is in any way, shape, or form, actually. But that's a separate thing. All right, you know what is different? What the Chiefs continue to do. They're like that meme from Breaking Bad. They can't keep getting away with it, yet they continue to do it. The Chiefs won another one-possession game last night over the Chargers to clinch the AFC West as Matthew Wright's walk-off field goal, their third-string kicker, by the way, lifted Kansas City over LA 19-17 after hitting the left upright. The Champs are now 12-1 on the season. It was their 6th win of the season that has been decided on the last play of the game. We've never seen this before. They've won their 15th consecutive one-possession game, which just adds to their NFL record. They're now 2 better than the 03-04 Patriots, who had those in their back-to-back Super Bowl years of 38 and 39. They lead the NFL with 10 one-possession wins and 10 comeback wins. The most one-possession wins by an eventual Super Bowl champion is 9 by the 2015 Denver Broncos and the 1988 86 New York Giants, rather. But for now, they are the division champs in the AFC West for the 9th straight season, and Patrick Mahomes says that's just the first step of the process.
Yeah, I mean, it's our first goal every single year to win the AFC West, and it's a great division where a lot of rivalries, where everybody's playing each other tough. And, I mean, 3 teams are going to probably make the playoffs. I mean, that speaks to the division that we play in. And so to be able to win this division, to gain another game in the playoff picture, it was an important game for us against a really good football team. We found a way to get a win, but now we got to keep building if we want to get to our ultimate goal.
The ultimate goal is, of course, the first ever three-peat in Super Bowl history. 9 straight divisions now is the second longest streak in NFL history. It predates Mahomes by 2 years. The Patriots' run from 2009 to 2019 was 11 straight. Patrick Mahomes has won the AFC West in each of his 6 seasons as a starter, the 6th most by any quarterback since divisional realignment in 2002. But he's got a long way to go before he catches Tom Brady. Tom won 18 AFC East titles from 2003 to 2022. The other thing about the Chiefs, which is remarkable, it's their 12th win of the season. Mm-hmm. They now have at least 12 wins in 7 of their last 9 seasons. To put that in perspective, there are 18 teams in the NFL that have 6 or fewer 12-win seasons in their franchise history. And this team has won 12 games.
And probably with a lot more talent, too.
Yeah.
The obstacles that this Chiefs team has jumped over, even the doink in their favor, I'm so over it.
I've run out of, I think they've run out of new and interesting ways to win football games. Let's go back to Marshall. That's a second straight home game, Marshall, where they've been up 13 points. They were up 16-3 on the Raiders, had to come back and win. They were up 13-0 at the half and let the Chargers come back into it, although the Chargers are a much better team than the Raiders. I don't think I've ever seen a game-winning kick stoink off the upright and through. I mean, it is ridiculous, but there is something about this team that I think they just expect these things to happen now.
Sure, there's expectation in the locker room, but you got to remember, they have a lot of flaws, legitimate flaws. I mean, Pat's getting hit. The amount of pressures and hits he's had in the last few games have kind of been alarming. They've got their best receiver is DeAndre Hopkins, and he's dropped some critical passes. There are legitimate holes, but what they have is recent institutional knowledge about how to win. Yeah. And then ultimately, the ultimate ace up their sleeve in Patrick Mahomes. And so they understand that while all these other teams are going to try real hard, make runs, they're just going to stay the course, convert first downs. Because you got to remember, they went up 13, but they had to go in basically 2-minute mode before the half to even get a touchdown in the first half. And then when the Chargers came rolling back, they're like, all right, we'll just bide our time. They kept moving the ball, converting first downs, getting the ball in their playmakers' hands, and then they just boa constrict you at the end. When if you're the Chargers and you saw that kick go through, but you saw the time left on the clock, you're like, man, here we go again. Mm-hmm. Because they bled every second of the clock. They've just done this over and over and over again. So I think there's going to be a team, whether it's Detroit or maybe Buffalo, that in the right day has the right amount of firepower and Kansas City cannot overcome. But 99% of the time, they are just going to play to the right above your best game and beat you by 1, 2, or 3. And that's all they care about. And that's all they should care about.
Yeah, I think at this point they just want to get to the playoffs at this point.
Sure.
Sometimes I feel like they have games where they just play with their food.
Yeah,
basically.
and they already have the division. They have the Browns, the Texans, the Steelers, and the Broncos left. Not an easy schedule by any means, but I don't know how much motivation they have left. You mentioned the Bills as one of those teams that seem like maybe they could take advantage of that 1% that the Chiefs have. Let's talk about this game against the Rams because Josh Allen goes crazy. I said it earlier, 6 touchdowns, 3 through the air, 3 on the ground.
That's never happened before.
First time ever. Leads the team in rushing and 0 interceptions with all of this. 340-plus passing yards. He continues to wow. Clear favorite now at the DraftKings Sportsbook, -400 to be the MVP. But my question is, he lost that game. He had another massive game the other week, lost that game. What concerns you the most about this Bills squad right now?
Well, I kind of predicted. I thought that they would still win the game, but I felt a letdown coming after their San Francisco game, going across the country. The Rams getting all of their main guys back. That cross-country trip is no joke. And then ultimately, the Rams got a block punt for a touchdown. They had some very poor clock management at the end, and they lost by 2 points in the shootout. So there's legit problems on the defense. They're still a top 10 defense in DVOA, which is crazy, but they give up a lot of explosive plays. And so they live dangerously. They sit in zone, but you can get chunks on them. And if you can win a shootout, which they understand very few teams can or have the patience to, they're going to be okay. And they understand they have Josh Allen to do the 3-and-3. And so I think this was kind of an outlier. I don't think that we should overreact. But I think ultimately Josh Allen's going to be the guy that the team, puts the team on his back. The defense is going to have to just give him enough opportunities, enough at-bats so he can hit the home runs. I'm not too concerned, but yeah, that's a tough outing. But hey, let's give Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay some credit. When they're firing, I don't think anybody in the league wants to see the Rams.
Some of those catches Puka Nacua made yesterday were absolutely ridiculous. And to go for it on that 4th and 2 or 4th and 5 when they knew a field goal wasn't going to win, that was the ultimate sign of respect to Josh Allen, basically saying, 6 points isn't going to do it. We need to go up by as many points as possible. Okay, so after Sunday, we have a lot of teams now eliminated from postseason. The Browns, the Jags, the Jets, the Titans, the Patriots, and the Giants. In your opinion, because we see this all the time, a team that was terrible one year comes back and the very next year miraculously finds their way back into the playoffs. I'm just going to say on principle, it's not going to be the Jets. Is there any one of these other teams that you think has a real opportunity to bounce back next year?
Yeah, of those teams, to me, the Patriots are set up pretty well. Drake May, ultimately this is a quarterback-driven league. Drake May has shown a lot of the goods of why they drafted him where they did. You get Jared Mayo in another year in this new system post-Bill Belichick era. And then hopefully they got to shore up the offensive line. They have a lot of work to do from a personnel standpoint, but I think they're in the best position to succeed. All these other teams are just in cap hell, or they've got really unfortunate situations where they don't even know if they have a guy in the lead of a quarterback in their clubhouse. So they're going to have to go get someone in free agency or draft someone. So to me, that level of stability, however relative it is, for the Patriots gives them the edge in that group.
And a year under his belt for Jerod Mayo, first-year head coach, and a year under his belt for Drake May at quarterback. Speaking of Drake May, his college at UNC looking for a new head coach. Speaking of New England, Bill Belichick, who has been jobless now coming on a year, almost a year since leaving New England. What do you think about this? He went on Pat McAfee. He said, yes, we're having the conversations. We'll see what happens. How do you see that fit for him?
Listen, a year ago, you're like, this is crazy. This doesn't make sense. He doesn't fit. He just doesn't fit the college landscape. But now we've got to take a step back. We're an NFL show, but the college landscape is looking more and more every day like an NFL. They're going to have general managers. They're going to be managing payrolls with revenue share coming, the NIL transfer portal stuff. And so I think a coach like Bill Belichick, who has the itch, all he's put on this earth to do is coach. And I think he's heard from enough NFL organizations where there's enough pushback, I think, of organizations not wanting to give him the amount of control that he would like. He's going to go to North Carolina. He's going to get a very, very nice salary, and he's going to get institutional control. It might be on the college level, and he's talked about maybe there's language in there to defer it to his son one day. But this is Bill Belichick wanting to run a show. And if there's anybody who could seal the deal on certain recruits, it might be him. He's going to have to make an adjustment, but it is closer to the NFL than it's ever been in college.
Well, I hope you're right, but I just him trying to tell somebody, I'm going to take care of your kid on a couch. difficult one for me.
You think Bill's going on recruiting visits?
Exactly. All right, Marshall, thanks. Joe Burrow and Case Keenum, what do they have in common? It's not great. We'll bring it back to you next as part of the Data Dump.
Pregame PowerUp brought to you by Campbell's Chunky, soup that eats like a meal. Take it to the Millhouse. Most bet anytime. I don't even know what that means. Most bet anytime touchdown scores. Jamar Chase up there, minus 140.
We need
Chase
a Simpsons tutorial here.
Oh, Simpsons. Okay, that makes sense. Chase Brown, you got to lay a bit more for, but nice plus money on Higgins and CeeDee Lamb. For more on how people are betting tonight's game, here is DKN social media correspondent Megan Townsley.
We've got the Bengals versus the Cowboys on Monday Night Football, and we haven't seen these teams meet since early in the 2022 season. So with this kind of matchup, I'm curious on what our bettors are rolling with in the DraftKings Sportsbook betting groups. Today, we're going to stay in the DK Network betting group, and Tim Finnegan, he's back in one of the LSU boys. He's taking Jamar Chase as the first touchdown scorer tonight. Not anytime, but the first one. And I mean, he literally is top 3 in touchdown scored this season. So yes, plain and simple, I will be tailing this bet. Zach Thompson, though, he's going with a game special tonight on the DraftKings Sportsbook, taking 1+ passing touchdown and 1+ rushing touchdown for both teams. The Bengals side, I'm pretty confident on that one, but have you checked out the Cowboys backfield this season? It's not the prettiest one we have seen, so not my favorite there. But if you do like this bet and you want to tail it, all you have to do to find these betting groups is open up the DraftKings Sportsbook, then click on the social tab at the top, and then hit the betting groups button. I'm ready to see a lot of action from CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, these top receivers, and so are a lot of our bettors in these betting groups, but don't just take my word for it, okay? Go check them out before the game kicks off tonight.
All right, Megan, thanks. And we've got a great way for you guys to interact with us here on the DraftKings Pregame PowerUp. Make sure you watch us on Thursday for a chance to win a $250 bonus bet. All you got to do is watch the show from 6 to 7 Eastern and listen for my PowerUp play call. I'll be giving out a promo code you can enter on the DK Sportsbook that gives you a shot at the $250 bonus bet. So tune in Thursday leading up to the Rams and Niners for more details on that. And we've reached that portion of the program, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a nice, tight 60-minute show. We can't get everything in there that we want. So this is where we unload the data dump. And let's start with Joe Burrow. This will be Macaulay Culkin's 4th career start on Monday Night Football. He is 1-2 straight up and 0-2-1 against the spread in those games. He's been listed as a favorite in all 3 starts. And if the Bengals don't cover this week, he would join only Case Keenum since 2003 with 4 or more Monday Night Football starts and no covers.
No Dak? Big problem for the Cowboys in this spot. Since 2003, the Cowboys have played 27 total games on Monday Night Football. When Dak Prescott starts for Dallas, they're 6-1 against the spread. When he doesn't, they're 7-13.
Not good.
No.
Overs continue to hit on Mondays. Monday Night Football overs are now 12-4 so far this season, going over the total by about 6+ points. The second best year for overs on Monday Night Football in the last 20 years, behind just 2008 when they went 12-3-2.
And some other trends you may have missed. The Cowboys have lost the first quarter in each of their last 7 games, something you can bet at the DK Sportsbook. Each of the Bengals' last 5 games have gone over the total points line, which we've talked about a lot on this show. And the Bengals have won and covered 6 straight road games against the NFC, Trey.
All right, the inactives have just come in for this game, and it looks like nobody of that we're not expecting to be is not there, so we're covered.
Well, that's
there.
good news.
So
all right.
I searched high and low to try and figure out exactly the best way to sum up this crazy season for Cincinnati. They're kind of the anti-Chiefs. Instead of finding ways to win, they just find a way to lose, right? It's sort of what happens. This stat really stuck out to me.
Okay.
The Bengals have scored the most points per game this season against teams 500 or better. In other words, when they're playing better teams, they put up over 30 points. Best in the NFL. They also give up the most points per game when they play those teams. They're giving up 36.4 points per game. Yeah. And in those 7 games, which they played, where a team is 500 or better, they're 0-7. That's it.
But think about how
that's it.
good they'll be next year when they shore up the defense.
Well, yeah, a lot of those guys won't be there. That's the problem. And will T. Higgins be there? It's going to be a
Jamar
mess.
Chase contract again in the offseason. Oh.
So we'll see. So enjoy the Monday night game, and I'm going to spend most of the evening trying to explain to Claudia why she's missing out on the greatest show in the history of television. So for Claudia, who is Simpson clueless, Emerson Lazia, Marshall Newhouse, and everybody else, I'm Trey Wingo. Thanks for watching.